He stood far from Rome, not inside its walls, not on its roads, but somehow they feared him anyway. He wasn't a king. He didn't rule an empire yet. He didn't even have enough men to conquer a city. But he had something else. Time. Patience. And a promise he refused to forget. In Rome, people still went to market. Children still ran through narrow streets. Old men argued about politics in the shade. Life looked normal. That's usually how fear begins. Quietly, somewhere beyond the mountains, he was moving. Not fast, not loudly, just forward. He watched the land carefully. Rivers, hills, roads. He studied everything, like a man memorizing a house before stepping inside. Rome had defeated many enemies before. Generals came, generals failed. The pattern was comforting. Victory felt inevitable. But this man didn't behave like the others. He didn't rush. He didn't challenge Rome directly. He waited. And waiting can be more dangerous than attacking. Soldiers began whispering his name. Messengers carried rumors south. No one knew exactly where he was, only that he was getting closer. Fear doesn't always come from battle. Sometimes it comes from the idea of a man who keeps walking, a man who never turns back. Rome didn't know it yet, but the war had already begun. Not on a battlefield, inside their imagination. And that may have been his first victory. He didn't move toward Rome, not directly. That's what made it unsettling. The generals expected ships. They watched the sea. He chose the mountains instead. I think that's when he stopped being predictable. His men saw the peaks first. White, silent, endless. Some of them slowed down. Some pretended not to notice. You can feel doubt before anyone speaks. He didn't argue. He didn't give a speech. He just kept walking. Leadership sometimes looks like silence. The air grew thinner. Boots slipped on wet stone. Horses refused the path, and the elephants moved carefully. Huge bodies, tiny trails. It felt wrong, almost impossible. A soldier dropped his shield. Another turned back for a moment, then returned. No one wanted to be the first to quit. Fear spreads, but so does stubbornness. Snow came early. Not gentle, not poetic. It cut the face. It hid the road. It erased the world behind them. He stood at the edge of a narrow pass. Below him, nothing but fog. Behind him, thousands waiting. Forward meant risk. Backward meant failure. He stepped forward. Some men didn't make it. Some animals slipped into silence. The line grew thinner every day. Victory was getting smaller, but closer. Rome still slept far away. Markets open, fires warm. They had no idea an army was climbing the sky. What kind of man chooses the harder road? On purpose? What kind of leader walks into the cold and expects others to follow? By the time they reached the other side, they weren't just soldiers anymore. They were survivors. And survivors Don't turn back. They came down from the mountains, quieter than expected. Not triumphant, not loud. Just tired men, breathing warmer air again. Survivors, stepping into Italy. He watched them carefully. Fewer faces, thinner lines. But something had changed. Hard journeys don't weaken men. They narrow them. Farmers saw them first. Strangers. Foreign armor. War elephants. Someone dropped a basket. Someone ran toward the nearest town. Fear travels faster than armies. Roman soldiers heard the rumors. Cold survivors. Animals from the mountains. A general who should have died already. Most of them didn't believe it. Rome wasn't used to surprises. The Roman commander felt confident. More men, better supply, home ground. He saw a tired enemy. He expected an easy victory. Confidence can look a lot like blindness. Morning came slowly. Mist hovered over the river. Boots stepped into freezing water. Roman shields held high. They crossed without hesitation. He was already waiting, hidden, patient, watching the moment stretch. He didn't rush. He let them come forward. Timing can feel like a weapon. Then movement. Not chaos, not noise, just pressure from the sides. Cavalry cutting paths, infantry closing slowly. Roman lines tightened, orders shouted, confusion spread. The ground felt unfamiliar suddenly. Victory slipped before anyone noticed. A young soldier looked behind him. No clear retreat. Only cold water. Only shouting. Only uncertainty. That's when panic begins, not when men fall, when they realize they might. The battle didn't last forever, but the feeling did. Rome had sent an army. It didn't return the same. News reached the city in fragments. Not defeat, not yet. Just something worse. Doubt. The man from the mountains had won. Not loudly, not completely, but enough. And sometimes the first shock is the deepest. They stopped trusting the rumors. That was their first mistake. After the last defeat, Rome wanted clarity. They wanted a clean fight. The Roman general pushed forward. He wanted to find the man from the mountains, end it quickly, restore order. I think he believed speed meant control. His soldiers marched before sunrise, armor quiet, breath visible. The lake rested beside them. Still water. No wind. No sound. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Fog rolled slowly across the shoreline. Men disappeared, then reappeared. Shields became shadows. Voices felt softer. Silence can make people careless. He was already there, hidden in the hills, watching the road tighten between lake and rock. A narrow path, no room to turn. He let them enter, row after row, thousands moving into a quiet trap. Patience again. He always waited for the moment. A soldier noticed movement above, just a shape, maybe nothing. He kept walking. Doubt is easy to ignore, until it's too late. Then the hills came alive, not loud at first, just figures descending, fast, controlled, certain. Roman lines tried to form. Orders collided in the fog. Men turned, but saw water behind them. No clear enemy, no clear escape. Some ran toward the lake, some stood frozen, some fought shadows. Confusion spreads faster than fear. The sound stayed low. Steel, footsteps, water. No grand clash, just pressure, closing slowly. The sun finally broke the fog. Too late. The shape of the disaster became visible. The army hadn't been defeated in a loud battle. It had been swallowed, quietly. Rome expected noise. They got silence. And sometimes, silence is harder to forget. He stood on the hill, looking down at the plain. Thousands of men moving like ants, yet none of them knew how close the end was. The Roman general adjusted his helmet. Confidence still hung on him, a thin veil. One wrong step, and it would tear away. Soldiers whispered. Eyes darted to the horizon. They remembered the mountains, the lake, and something about this man lingered in their minds. He didn't charge. He didn't roar. He waited. A quiet predator, knowing his prey moves faster when blind. The plain stretched endlessly. Sun baked the earth. Dust rose in waves. Horses neighed. Men shouted. Chaos seemed near. And then, silence. The army froze. Not fear, not yet. Anticipation. A pause in the world. Rome had never felt it like this. He struck from the side, cavalry slashing through flanks, infantry pressing slowly. A river behind the Romans. No retreat. Only chaos ahead. Some men tried to rally. Some fought bravely. Some fell silently into the dirt. The ground seemed to move beneath them. The sky reflected panic. He watched it all. Not triumphant. Curious. Almost scientific. How much fear could a man carry before breaking? How much courage before it vanishes? Voices scattered, orders lost in the wind. Metal clashed, horses screamed, men screamed louder, and Rome felt fragile. A young soldier glanced at the city, smoke rising, fires already burning. Rome could die today, and no one would stop it. By sunset, the plain was quiet again, but the impression lingered. Rome had survived, barely, and the man from the mountains had proven something. He proved that empires could tremble, without walls falling, without kings dying. Just by the will of a single mind. The aftertaste that Rome would remember for generations and wonder, could it happen again? He didn't celebrate, not after the lake, not after the plain. Victory felt empty. His men cheered quietly. Bruised, hungry, alive, they had survived. But at what cost? Every smile carried a shadow. Rome rebuilt. Fires relit. Walls repaired. And yet, fear lingered. Whispers of the man who came from nowhere. Battles followed. Not one, not two, many. Endless. Every skirmish left scars. not only on soldiers, but on those who watched. He learned something too. Even the strongest mind cannot hold forever. Even the cleverest strategies wear thin. Success is temporary. The Romans adapted. They learned his moves. They countered. They waited. Patience can be as cruel as war. Years passed. Friends were lost. Enemies remembered. Every victory carried a price, and every price weighed on him. He looked at the maps, traveled the valleys, counted the days. He asked himself, was it worth it? War that never ends changes people. It reshapes the world quietly. It leaves a taste, bitter, a memory that won't fade. By the end, he had built a legend, and yet he had lost pieces of himself. The empire grew, and so did the emptiness. Victory is not always the end. Sometimes it is just the beginning of another loss. He noticed the pattern, not in his men, not in the mountains, in Rome. The city changed, not overnight, not in obvious ways, quietly, slowly, purposefully. New generals stepped forward, not like the old ones, clever, patient, ruthless in small doses. Rome learned without being seen. He watched from afar, every movement, every supply line, every decision. He understood one thing. The rules were no longer the same. A messenger arrived, face pale, breath short. The Romans, they're different now. Even his men felt it. Change has a smell. Skirmishes felt different, not chaotic, not desperate, calculated, precise. Every choice had consequences, every mistake punished. He wondered quietly, had he underestimated Rome? Could the mountains have taught him more than the plains? Was victory slipping like sand through fingers? Rome didn't just react, it evolved. It turned patience into a weapon. It turned fear into discipline. And the man who once commanded awe had to rethink everything. He learned a lesson. Even the boldest mind cannot control the world forever. Empires shift, people adapt, and sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted. The aftertaste lingered, not of defeat, but of respect and of danger. Rome had changed the game, and he had to play by new rules. He sat alone. The wind whispered through the empty camp. Not a single soldier near. Victory had always followed him. Until now. He remembered the mountains, the lake, the plains, all the moments when the world seemed to bend to his will. And yet, here, it resisted. The Romans smiled quietly, not loudly, not boastfully. They had learned patience, and patience can be more dangerous than any sword. He walked among the tents. The man looked at him with cautious eyes. Hope mingled with fear, and he felt powerless. A messenger approached, words carefully chosen. "The Senate, they move against you." Even his strategies faltered. Maps didn't help. Numbers didn't help. Nothing helped. He thought of the victories, every clever move, every calculated risk, and wondered, could it all be undone? Could the empire he built vanish quietly? Silence stretched. Not a battlefield silence, a different one. The silence of understanding, of inevitability, of knowing that some battles cannot be won. He studied the horizon. The mountains looked the same, the sky unchanged, but the weight was heavier. The world had shifted. He questioned himself. Had he misjudged? Had he ignored the smallest warning? Was pride his greatest enemy? No elephants, no flanking maneuvers, no brilliant ambushes. Just time and Rome. Quiet, patient, relentless. He had fought kings, generals, and empires. But this was different. It was a battle not of strength, but of endurance. And endurance had finally defeated him. The aftertaste lingered. Not shame, not fear, but loss, and a question that no victory could answer. Could it have been different?